Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and Dobbs down, Dobbs down. So Lou Dobbs is somebody who I consider a pretty straight down the line newsman for the better part of his career. Now, later on in his career, when he was working for CNN, his pieces became more and more editorialized, okay? And editorialized in a manner against globalism. By no means is Dobbs perfect. I want to say that right now. But Dobbs is somebody who did question things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership and a lot of the tools used in globalization, not only to destabilize certain regions, but in essence, keep cycles of large populations in a lower middle class, if that scenario, depending on where you live in the world, okay? All while saying, it's uplifting, working together, right? And communications, it's good for the economy. Dobbs was a guy that started questioning that. Now, eventually, not only was Dobbs let go from CNN, but there was a stray bullet that went into his home. I know that sounds crazy and wacky, but it's absolutely true. It's something I put in Invisible Empire, A New World Order, defined when he was talking about, for instance, the partnership between Canada, the United States, and Mexico, right? And these superhighways they wanted to put in. So after that, and I believe it was before or right around the Obama second term, right in that 2012 era, CNN ends up getting rid of Dobbs, and he gets picked up by Fox, but they don't put him on the main network, okay? So they don't put Dobbs on the main network. Instead, they put him on Fox Business. And we all know how much ratings, Fox Business gets. It's kind of like almost CNBC. That's why CNBC is constantly rerunning Shark Tank. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous when your 24-hour news network has to kind of relegate itself to popcorn entrepreneur porn television, right? But that's the reality. So he goes to Fox Business. He does a decent job there. Dobbs not perfect, a bit of a warmonger, right? For me, Dobbs does go down that line of all these extreme threats overseas, but at times will call out not only civil liberties at homes, but certain actions overseas and the war in general. But he also lets these guys propagate the Iranian threat and so much more, okay? And I'll tell you what, he was a pretty big Trump guy. It wasn't like I was watching Dobbs all the time, but some of the things he said and done, I definitely did cover on this channel. Dobbs is their number one draw on that network. Numero uno, Topsky and Hutch. Now, usually in what's called, an economy, and I don't know that you want, quote unquote, economies based around news, especially when they're based around advertisers at the end. And something else that comes into play here, I believe, in his firing, lawsuits. It's incredible to me, these media lawsuits, right? Because in most cases, when the media is sued, it is because it misrepresented a story, right? And they get sued for millions of dollars. It never gets into the billions, but this lawsuit does. And the media has never really had to correct itself on so many issues, from weapons of mass destruction to 9/11 especially, okay? And honestly, from the 9/11 timeline on, it just gets more and more absurd. Sure, the Kennedy stuff's there, the Vietnam stuff, the Gulf of Tonkin, right? The First World Trade Center, Oklahoma City. We go on and on and on about the deception that goes on via the media that's been outright exposed that they've never had to go back on, right? And not be sued over. We're talking about a $2.7 billion lawsuit that Dobbs is named in, and a couple other anchors on Fox are by Smartmatic. That's what we're going to get into. In a moment, we're going to read some of this article. I do want to remind everybody, fully demonetized on this channel. And if you watched my interview with Graham, I said something about deplatforming on PayPal. And a shout out to one of my donors. I DM'd him. I don't know if he wants me to say his name, but basically now his payment is pending. And I literally had just gotten an email from PayPal saying they were changing their terms of service for legal reasons or whatever. So am I going to get deplatformed from PayPal, a service I've been using for 13, 14 years? I think I've had it since 2007. And then it'll be, well, just go to Venmo, Jason. Okay, well, guess what? Venmo's owned by PayPal. And these digital, even through the Go Get Funding, the PayPal's what I receive. I just saw that I may have a payment from the Stripe thing, but I wouldn't get that for 4 months. They're trying to starve out any kind of alternative media or alternative narrative. For instance, again, my GoFundMe only for January was taken down. The other ones are still up, right? I don't pump them because I'm not going back to that. And the thing is with that GoFundMe on the 19th, think about this, okay? I do this, especially when it comes to the Capitol, show me the video where I caused any harm. Show me the video where I was chanting. Show me the video where I was holding a sign or taking a political stance, etc. I covered that. I put out raw video and I talked about it. How is that any different from anywhere else? And if I'm getting pulled from that, which is a huge news event and totally worthy, and I'm literally arm to arm with other journalists that are employed by, I don't know, I've seen some Getty Images or they're freelance, who knows, but they're the ones in masks. You can see the one guy at the tunnel there. They're allowed to be there. They're allowed to not be censored. They're allowed to do their jobs, and I'm not. Because I make commentary at some point. Wow, I have an opinion. Well, you see what happened with Ford Fisher, and I'm glad they pulled it back on Ford and they remonetized his channel. But just because I have an opinion and I back that up with mainstream articles, documentation, video admissions, somehow I'm not allowed to do that job because Fox News doesn't employ me or MSNBC doesn't employ me. They're never going to employ me. So we're using this while we can, guys, and thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share. I'm going to use their tools against them. That's right. YouTube, Google, Alphabet, NSA, whatever you want to call yourself, NASA. Okay? I get it. For instance, I've been seeing this clip going around of Peter Thiel talking about artificial intelligence and quantum supremacy and Google working with China. What about NASA? What about NASA, Peter? All right? Why are these companies so embedded, okay, into not only the military industrial complex, but really the media military industrial complex too, because they're the ones that are shaping the narrative with large platforms like YouTube. And then you have that Time Magazine article out there, literally like, hey man, you're right, conspiracies and secret cabals totally exist, but they love you, and they didn't rig the election, they fortified it for the proper outcome. So now, again, and by the way, they curated information and the flow of information. Okay, and they were, high-level politicians. All this is admitted in here, and it's still limited hangout. And I mean, they're literally laughing and bragging in your face. The secret history of the shadow campaign. See, now we have shadow campaigns. It's all out in the open. It's all out in the open. Now, if I had said anything like this, you're just not reading it from Time Magazine, I'm the bad guy. I'm the heel. It's an incredible world we live in. And that's why you got to, make your way over to the Rockfin. By the way, you want to know what I really think about that Time Magazine article? Because I can't say it here. I read a little piece of it yesterday. I don't even want to go over it because it's so in your face and so over the top. You got to go watch it at Rockfin for free. Go make the free account. And then if you want to, this is where you can support me. Guess who's not going to cut me off? Rockfin. Rockfin's not cutting me off. So yes, this is a great way to financially support the show for just $9.99 a month, American. Someone was telling me it's like $22 in New Zealand. And I'm not sure if that's just the currency rate or what's going on, but well, that sucks, brother. And again, there's plenty of free stuff on here that is also exclusive, but you get all the archives. And I'm hoping to do a fight watch along in a few hours. I'm gonna text Nick and see if he's gonna come down and do it with me, because I'd really like to do that too. I think we're gonna do that across platforms, but it'll also be on the Rockfin. And we're backed up on Odyssey as well. Okay. So Fox News in a race with itself to the bottom. Lou Dobbs reteeps fans attacking network for canceling him. High-rated show. Yeah, it's the highest-rated show. And of course he is. And, the president's backed him. I'm not, Sebastian Gorka's on his nuts, yada, yada, yada. I don't care about that. You got Smartmatic filing a lawsuit against Fox for $2.7 billion. That's the big boys. Here's the deal. None of these companies should exist. Am I allowed to say that? Am I allowed to say that, Google? Am I allowed to say I'm against digital voting machines in any way? We don't need them. We don't need, again, a digital voting machine to count the votes for us. We do it by hand, and then we got the little webcammy cam, and it takes the picture as we do it by hand, and they get backed up one at a time, one at a time. Digital record right there for everybody. That's accountable because it's live streaming. And the votes never left the building. In fact, they didn't leave the box because everything was getting live streamed. At the end, they leave the box and everybody starts counting. Technology that empowers human beings. We don't need fucking Smartmatic, okay? We don't need any of these companies. Because the funny thing is about the Time Magazine article, they're talking about curating information. I mean, it's over the top. It is. But they never, ever, 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 ever talk about anything that would be illegal unless Russia did it. Because, if you substituted, like secret cabal, which they actually use in this, for Russia in this thing, oh, man, forget about it. Forget about it. Then you run this story all day. Anywhere, and then you could talk about the illegalities. So, Dobbs, I guess they're going to let him go until Friday. Or was it Friday? I think they let him, what was it? Was Friday his last show? Are they letting him go till next Friday? I forgot. I read this. Let's see. Dobbs is taking to Twitter to thank his followers for their support after the blasting, right? Tonight on Friday came as a shock to viewers, many of whom have accused the network of trying to silence the outspoken host. So I guess he did. He said it last night. So he's not that. That's it. That's a wrap for Dobbs. He did have a large and loyal following. So the question is, and it kind of sucks, because where's he going? What's the next move for Lou Dobbs? He basically has three choices, right? He go the Russia scenario. RT or Sputnik would love to have him. Probably RT. But then once you go RT, which Larry King did at the end of his career before his death recently, and you've seen others do, you're immediately a Russia agent. Rick Sanchez, you bastard! You communist! You Putin puppet. So is he going to want to do that? Especially because he does seem to be on this Trump train. Secondly, not knocking Lou Dobbs, but he has faded a little bit. And I don't mean that his mind isn't there. I'm just saying he's not as sharp. Okay? He stutters a little bit more. I think his mind is there. I think he's having a little bit more trouble vocalizing what he wants to say. But you did see that also with Larry King. Much later. I thought Larry King, for an older man, again, love him or hate him, I've watched many an interview Larry King put on. Okay? So Dobbs could go that route and, go to maybe an OAN or a Newsmax. They're getting tons and tons and tons of, mainstream bash, I guess. But that's about it, right? Those are the three choices. Is there another choice for Dobbs to do? I'm not knocking Lou Dobbs. But let's say Dobbs was able to just kind of do his own thing. Try to get on a platform like this one on YouTube. He'd have such an immediate audience that they would probably not only try to censor him, but take him off. I saw, for instance, Glenn Beck, really had that big, they really wanted to push him before he started attacking globalism more and admitting he'd been wrong in the past. Believe me, I'm not a huge fan of Blaze Media, but I think Beck only has like 500,000. I think he's got less subscribers, way less, than, say, We Are Change and Luke. Okay? And I get it. He's got his own networks and this and that. And he's always only putting pieces out, blah, blah, blah. But if Dobbs were to actually come to YouTube or get a following, they'd probably just ban him. Especially because he's talking about, not election fortifying. He's not talking about fortifying the election like Time Magazine does with secret cabals of loving billionaires and politicians that just, they love us and they wanted to save democracy. He's not saying that. He's not using the term fortifying. He uses another term. And he doesn't paint these people as benevolent in the least. Okay? So he gets banned. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. I've ranted. I've raved. You've heard it. You guys know where the links are down below. Let me say this. Again, PayPal, I don't know. Am I going to get kicked off? I sure hope not. Why am I not allowed to make a living doing this? Why am I not allowed to make a living doing this? That's all I'm saying. So, I want to shout out to everybody that's got the Rockfin, especially the premium. But again, if you're first of all, if you're a premium member and you get everybody's stuff, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome, especially if you're an MMA fan, man. Like, I'm an MMA fan, and I check out just that stuff. Like, I like Ben Askren's channel. I like the Funky and FRB podcast with him and Front Row Brian. It's good stuff. There's just so much else there for that price, so it's awesome. And they're not going to censor me. That's where I'm going to grow. You watch how much I grow there in the next 12 months if I'm able to up my game here in Iowa. Because I intend to up my game here in Iowa. And I'm doing it with your help. So, guys, by the way, shout out to Reynolds. All my restrictions are done at midnight. You hear me? You hear me, America? You hear me, New York? You hear me, California? All my restrictions end here at midnight. All of them. We're going to do a video on that when we do the Fight Companion. So, the prelims are starting soon. I may wait an hour before the prelims start because I'm not going to stream that. And then I'll catch up so I don't have to watch all the hype before the show. So I'm just saying, that's how we're doing it. Guys, I love you. I'll see you on the flip side.